for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K, 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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K, 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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. CF Montreal Talk.
Here's the chance. Here's the chance. They've got the goal. Absolutely incredible. Cameron Porter send Montreal Impact into the CONCACAF Champions League semi-final.
The sickest CF Montreal podcast. Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. Playground, your premier gaming destination. Complete Striker. And Innov Sport.
Collaborer avec Innov Sport, une compagnie d'ici afin de dynamiser l'apprentissage et la pratique du sport pour tous et partout.
Les différents produits permettent de rester actif tout en développant sa confiance, son autonomie et sa technique. Des produits efficaces, progressifs et personnalisés avec le logo de votre école.
Innov Sport, pour tous et partout.
It's gonna be sick.
Talking CF Montreal on this Monday, August 26th. I am Marinaro, and welcome to the Sick Podcast. Thanks for watching, everyone, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. We have a lot to talk to you about because, of course, CF Montreal were, very unfortunately for them, obliterated by a score of 5-0 on Saturday night at home in front of their fans versus the New England Revolution, who had the third worst record in MLS at the time. Yikes! This after team president Gabriel Gervais said less than a week ago that following the pickups and the transactions during the Mercato, that CF Montreal were a better team and had a better chance to make the playoffs. Yikes! The Sick Podcast brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America and driven to be different. Also brought to you in part by Bittt Tibi. They launched their new Ultra Lager, refreshing, thirst-quenching beer, perfect for the hot summer days with only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, 4% ABV per can, available in a pack of 6 and 12 in grocery stores all around the province of Quebec. Ultra light, ultra refreshing. Also brought to you in part by Playground. Discover a world of luxury at Playground. Explore their 30,000 square foot expansion with thrilling games, gourmet dining, live entertainment, located just over the Mercier Bridge, only minutes from downtown Montreal. Playground. Experience the strip without the trip. Without further ado, I bring him in. Former member of the Montreal Impact, Patrice Bernier. How are you?
Hey, Tony. How's it going?
It's going better than it went for CF Montreal on Saturday night. Pat, there's going to be so many things to talk about. I don't even know where to start, but actually I do know where to start. Okay, let me take you back on August 15th, all right? Okay. August 15th, 9 days before the game versus the New England Revolution, Laurent Courtois talked about a relationship that he had with a player on the team, and he gave us a lot of juice. He talked about Josef Martinez. Let's hear what the coach had to say.
On essaie de contrôler, et surtout un, on va dire. Et tout le reste est content d'être là et a envie de progresser, a envie de s'amuser. On est vigilant sur Josef parce qu'on est très déçu un petit peu de... Il y a un gros décalage entre la personne que j'ai eue au téléphone avant de signer et est-ce que la personne fait en ce moment-là. Donc au niveau humainement, pour l'instant, c'est une grosse déception. Sportif... ça dépend sur quoi on se base. Mais à part ça, moi, je trouve qu'il y a une bonne ambiance. On voudrait juste être un peu plus performant pour pouvoir rendre aux fans, mais le groupe vit bien.
C'est ça, je voulais vous demander si vous étiez surpris de ce constat-là, parce qu'au début de l'année, vous nous en parliez comme un leader très positif.
Ouais.
C'est où que ça a switché?
Moi, je donne la main jusqu'à ce que tu me trahis.
Wow. All right. So he says there's a player that before we signed him, the player that I spoke to and the person that I spoke to on the telephone is much different than the person right now and what he's doing. From a human standpoint, it's a huge disappointment. From a player standpoint and his performance, it depends on what you base it on. But I'm willing to give you until you betray me. Those are very strong words, Pat. What do you think he's talking about? Where do you think Josef Martinez has let Laurent Courtois down?
Look, I was there after, I think this came out after, because he did not play the Leagues Cup game or wasn't in the group for the Leagues Cup game against Philly. So days after, people asked. I was there at the training session. Look, Josef left the training session And from what I understood, he was supposed to to keep doing some sort of running or at least exercise. He didn't want to, left. The physical preparator went after him, but he didn't want to do anything. He left. So I think he felt, for Laurent Courtois, he feels like, I'm expecting from this guy who's now 30-something more, who has experience, to lead. And then I feel that, from what I'm taking from the words of Laurent Courtois, I feel like now I'm being let down by somebody who seemed to want to take that mantle, that role, and is not doing it at the precise moment. So, but I will say he did come back on his words, because we have the chance to talk to him before games, to say that he has a philosophy, which is, I tend the hand until you betray me. It was not necessarily strictly just to Josef Martinez, but Josef Martinez was a moment where he felt a player, you give him, and then until the player doesn't give you anymore. So, but it's still strong words. I think he regrets having sent them out loud. And also, look, I know Josef Martinez, not personally, but from the league, from being in Atlanta. So I know he's a character. Anybody who's Atlanta would tell you that you can have great moments, but he can also be very, very tough, which is not surprising. He's a forward. Most forwards are, I could say, egotistical. Everything is based on goals. And in Atlanta, he was king of Atlanta. And now things have trickled down in terms of the last few years. So you're going to have highs and lows. But definitely strong words to say, and something maybe that could have been managed internally without having to say that directly to the great public. Maybe you say that directly to Josef Martinez. I think he regrets having said that out loud.
Even the month before that, the month before he said what he said, I think that's an accumulation. I don't think it's just because, Martinez wasn't delivering the numbers that they wanted on the GPS. I think last month was shaky before that. I don't think the two gentlemen were presidents of each other's fan club. But Pat, the reason why I start the show with this, let's bring up the starting lineup for CF Montreal on the weekend. And here you have it. Sirois in goal, a three-man back line, Waterman with Campbell on his right and Sosa on his left. Piet and Saliba in front of the back line with Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy at right wing back, Pierce at left wing back, and Caden Clark and Bryce Duke right in behind Martinez. Pat, my question to you is, and I understand that a punishment cannot go on forever, but 9 days before, you talk about how much you're disappointed on the human level, that on the sporting level, it depends which way you look at it, and you tend the hand until you get betrayed. And 9 days later, he's starting the game. You, who were a former player, I want to ask you, how do you think that is seen by the players in the locker room and on the pitch?
Now, the part that we don't know, and maybe they'll say it, is whatever happened. Like I said, that part where Josef left training, did he apologize to the group? Did he apologize to the coach? Because from what I understand, on Friday, he had said that Josef and him had conversations, so they did talk. Now, as I mentioned it before, these are not new things for me. They've happened with other players. Now, are you able to mend the gap, knowing that, okay, I made most Martinez maybe say, I made a mistake. I apologize. It was irrational on the moment. I'm back in, blah, blah, blah. And then the week of training, he proves that he's back into it. And then a coach will always go on the field most of the time. Like I said, because I don't know, maybe the relationship is not the greatest, but if he sees he's giving the work and he knows he counts on a guy like Josef Martinez to be spearheading the attack and scoring goals, or at least being there to provide opportunities to score goals. This is not the first time I've seen players and coach maybe butt heads and still be on the lineup. And it happens in other clubs in MLS. But the factor that you mentioned, it just shows for me, it says, according to the last few games, there's a bit of instability in terms of the starting 11. And that Josef Martinez coming in, Kokaro not being in, Ibrahim has disappeared. All those accumulate, I think, with not just the Josef Martinez case, but no stability of, okay, who's the main forward? We're going with him, or the main two forwards, and that you keep them and with confidence. We spoke about it. It was Vilsain at the beginning of the year. Then Kokara got injured because he was doing well. Then Martinez got injured. And Ibrahim was scoring well. We thought he was going to be the main guy, and it just keeps changing. And you can't afford that, not at this stage of the season where you need confidence and stability of who you can trust.
So, Pat, we talked about it before. They hire a new coach in January. They let the sporting director and his assistant go a couple of months ago. They bring in a consultant to take on some of the responsibilities. They make a bunch of trades. They turn over the roster quite a bit. They have a press conference and they say that we believe that we're a better team now with the trades that we made and we have a better chance to make the playoffs. There's 9 games left. They're playing their first league game at home in quite some time. They're going up against the 3rd worst team statistically in the MLS before the game. With all that said, if I would have told you before the game, Pat, tonight, they're going to lose 5-0 before the game, you would have said what?
I said, no, I don't believe that should happen. Not the result like that. They may lose, but not 5-0. Not to a team who's been struggling this season, even though they've been doing better in the last few weeks. Yeah, I would have told you 5-0. No, I don't think so. I think it will be a closer game than it should be because you're fighting for a playoff spot. All those games you're already in the playoffs with all these games happening now towards the end of the season.
If it would have happened when you were playing, the same context, 9 games left, you have to make the playoffs here, okay? They've stated the playoffs is the number 1 priority. Number 1 priority is,
yes,
we have our philosophy, but for now, short term, the number 1 priority is we want to make the playoffs. And you lose 5-0. When you were playing this club, what would happen in the next couple of days?
Next couple of days, first and foremost, before we got to that stage, because you put a finger on something. There's certain things that for me shows that it's not a bad group, but they don't look very united. When I mean on the field, going in all direction to what we saw in March, where we're like, oh, they're not going to win these games on the road, and they managed it, showing that they were a unit. In the last few weeks, it just seems we're a team on the field, but we're not acting as guys that are all on the same mission. So way before that, I would have probably said, I think, Coach, we need a team building moment. We're going to have to go outside from the field and do something to reconnect as humans and as a team before we can actually go on the field and do something. But if we are taking the 5-0, just like Sam Piet said, look, you're going to understand that the guys that are local, for myself to other guys, Samuel Piet, Saliba, everything trickles down even more because your friends, your family, everybody was saying, what the heck is happening with your team? You took 5-0 at home, which is historically the worst defeat in MLS history at Stade Saputo. So,
by the way, I'm going to answer the question for you, okay? You didn't say it. When you were playing, the coach would have been fired.
You mean right after a game like that?
Next 48 hours.
Depends. I don't think so.
I'm not saying he should, by the way. You understand what I'm saying? Here's the difference. I'm not saying he should. I'm saying when you were playing, I think I've seen this before.
Yeah.
The coach would have been fired. You just talked about the worst historical defeat at Stade Saputo with this team in the MLS. I mean, that's a bad one. 5-0 once again. And they didn't lose to Manchester City here, okay? They lost to the New England Revolution. Now, okay, having said that, you made an interesting comment. And you said, I don't see this group united. Neither do I. I see an extremely fragile group whose confidence is very, very low. The second goal went in. I saw Nilton George and Max Truman at halftime, and they said, how do you think the second half's going to go? I said, I think they're going to lose 4-0. And I was wrong. They lost 5-0. Pat, I believe, and I sincerely believe, and this is not just believing. Look, I speak with a lot of players, Pat, okay?
Yes.
I have the pulse of that locker room, and I talk. And if the players talk to me, Pat, if the players talk to me, if the locker room talks to me, if employees of the club talk to me, it's because they're unhappy about 1, 2, 3, 4 different things. They know that I can voice their concerns without ratting anyone out, speaking, based on what I've been told and based on what I hear, the Mathieu Choiniere saga has negatively affected this group. They are fractured. We know that it obviously upset Choiniere. I don't care what he's going to say in 3 or 4 months from now, whether they're going to tell him, please don't talk bad about the club, which is something they've done as you know, when players have moved on. Let's put the cards on the table here. Right now, we put the cards on the table. Mathieu Choiniere is everything they've wanted this club to be and everything they wanted to deliver as a message. You come into the academy at a very, very young age. You go up through the ranks, you develop, and all of a sudden you end up becoming a professional player. You end up becoming a starting player. You end up becoming a league all-star. You end up becoming a fan favorite. And he wanted to renegotiate his contract. They didn't want to do it. They told him that he had about another year and a half left to wait. And they gave him a Mickey Mouse offer. And then Olivier Renard, knew the value of this player, and he was his whole dismissal / firing / walking away / mutual separation of ways. It started with this. Or maybe it ended with this. Is that Renard wanted to give him his money, what he was worth. They didn't want to give it, and that's it. And then, based on the information I have. And I tweeted this out a couple of weeks ago and said it, they came back now a couple of weeks ago and offered him $600,000. Now what we're hearing from the club is, his transfer is imminent to Grasshopper in Switzerland. We wanted to bring Mathieu back. We have no regrets. He wanted to move on. Pat, he asked to negotiate his contract because he wanted to be paid what he was worth. Yes, maybe he wanted to move on to Europe one day, but not now. He wanted to stay with CF Montreal still for some time. He felt disrespected. The amount of $600,000, he didn't even look at it. If the amount was $1 million, I've been told he would have refused it anyway. It was a matter of principle. And then what do? They go out and they acquire a good young player from Toronto, no doubt. And by acquiring him, they extend his contract and they offer him, or they give him, more money on the extension than the offer they made Choiniere 4 or 5 months ago. I mean, how do you not want to fracture a locker room, Pat?
Oh, there's a lot of things in a season that transpires and does a thing. Mathieu Choiniere being one. All the storylines, they interconnect because the players talk to each other.
Do you agree with what I'm saying? Like, if this was you, wouldn't you think that this would fracture a locker room? A local player developed here, wants to stay here, and then lowballed, and then the money given to somebody from Toronto?
The reality, I think, with MLS, which is different than the other leagues, is the salaries are out there. A lot of the other leagues, I can't say speculation. You know some of the stories, but you don't know. And here, players do see how much somebody else earns on the other team and where you stand in your own team, where you stand. And it makes conversation and makes, what's happening? What are you going to do? I think too much time spent between when we learned about Mathieu Choiniere and Copa America. I believe the minute he went to Copa America, Jesse Marsh, probably talking, if you one day want to be a main guy of this team, you have to be playing in Europe. And that probably solidified knowing if I want to go to Europe and I have an opportunity now, I got to take it because in 2-3 years, it will be too late. As I mentioned it before in Chronique and RDS, there's very seldom players who are sold from MLS elsewhere 24 years and over. So Mathieu, his moment was now to go to Europe. But like I said, if this was handled maybe before, maybe Mathieu signs in March, even though the saga goes on, because he didn't go to Copa America. He didn't speak with Jesse Marsh. And now he saw, I got an option, but I got a possibility to leave and go and better myself, you could say, going out there. Even though the Swiss League for me is not a better league than MLS, but I understand. I've been to Europe. You put one step there, things can happen. You don't
think it's a better league than MLS?
No, I don't believe Swiss League is better. Certain clubs there are better, but not the league itself. But when you go to Switzerland, it's a fast track to Bundesliga if you do very well or other leagues around. So that's the beauty of Europe. You can be in a smaller market, but if you perform well, you can go very fast into other markets. But like Swiss League, yes, it's the Swiss League. There's maybe a bit more money, but I don't believe it's a better league than the MLS. That's for sure. But like
I don't think he's going to make more money than the money they offered him.
Oh, I don't know if he's going to make more money. There's less taxes there and all that situation also. But
yeah, I know there's less taxes there, but I've been to Switzerland before. It costs $25 for a hamburger for a Big Mac.
No, I know it costs the cost of living, but in terms of the percentage of being taxed there, you could be taxed much less than you are here in Montreal and other places, even in France.
Yeah.
But the fracture comes from he has an opportunity. He sees it. And if you had settled it earlier, I think he would have. I'm confident that if he were, Copa America changed things drastically in terms of already maybe he had something saying they're not valuing me to what I put on the table. But having played Copa America, having seen the level, and probably talking to Jesse Marsh in terms of one day, if I want to be on the starting 11, I got to play in Europe. And Europe calls, you're not going to deny that opportunity, even if it's for less money, because it's a step. You take that risk knowing that maybe in 2 years you're going to earn a lot more, and you could be in Bundesliga and top league if you do well in Switzerland.
Pat, I don't think you're wrong. Okay, I agree with a lot of what you're saying.
Yeah,
I'm going to come back to this though.
Go.
How the hell can you make this guy an offer of $350,000? Like, I mean, is this no? But is this a joke? Come on, like, is this a joke? He's their most important player. He plays 5 different positions on that team. He can play 6, he can play 8, he can play 10, he can play 7, and he can play 11. Now, you probably like him at some positions more than the other, but he can play 5 different positions. And he probably plays every one of those positions better than almost every player on the team or every player on the team. So knowing that, and knowing he's from here, and knowing he came within your academy, and knowing you helped develop him, and knowing that he's a homegrown, and knowing that he's a league all-star, how the hell do you look at the guy and you tell him $350 final offer? You're laughing in the guy's face. You're humiliating him.
Yeah, I mentioned it before.
So Pat, I'm gonna work in media, okay?
Yeah.
And I have at the same company, whether it's TV or radio or podcasting or whatever, okay? I'm working with 20 other guys, all right? And I have Choiniere's track record. And they're going to pay 8, 9, 10 guys more than they're going to pay me. And they're going to come back and they're going to give me a raise. But with the raise that I've asked for, not because they offered, that they tell me final offer, there's still 7, 8, 9, 10 guys making more than me, some of which stay on the bench and they play 5 minutes a game. How does this make sense? Is this a joke or what?
No, if you go back to the players who did get new contracts or extensions or a better contract, pretty much, I look at Lassie Lapelin, Mason Toy, even Sunusi Ibrahim got a new deal, if I'm correct, at the end of last year for this season. And you look at what Mathieu's done and his track record. I've mentioned it before. For me, Mathieu Choiniere is like Christian Roldan in Seattle. Player I'm not comparing the two players. I'm talking about who they are and how they started and in their club where they are. And Christian Roldan played several different positions until he became a mainstay at center mid and has been kept through the club through 4 years. And I always say it, with local players, it's difficult because you don't want to keep them on that last contract, because if they do well, what happens? There's a lot of factors, and you mentioned it, and we've been mentioning it, and the media and everybody's been mentioning it the last few weeks. So those are the players that, especially that you want to keep here, those are the ones you want to keep on longer contracts. So you don't have to have that situation where we are now with Mathieu. And it's unfortunate. And like I mentioned it to you and to all, I'm first and foremost a fan of Mathieu Choiniere. I would have loved to see him here at his prime years playing for the CF Montreal. Now we'll be following what he does in the future, and who knows how his progression goes. I wish him all the best. But yes, it's difficult to see that. Yes, he could have been put back into the top of that in the payroll of the club, having performed the last 2 weeks. I just think we squashed it too early instead of keeping that open book, so that maybe during the season you close it down and we announce it at the end of the year where it was closed. And I've been a player. Yes, it hurts you, because then you're like, wait, if here, then what do I do? If I'm not going to get it here. So it's always a difficult situation. And and hopefully others will benefit from it with this situation of Mathieu Choiniere.
All right. Max Truman reported before the game that Coccaro was late for a practice on Thursday. Okay. He was not dressed on Saturday. And I asked the coach if not being dressed was the punishment of being late for practice on Thursday. Let's go to the clip where I ask head coach Laurent Courtois after the game about Coccaro not being dressed.
Il y a eu un élément interne avec Mathieu. On l'a traité en interne. J'essaie d'être cohérent j'essaie de faire ce que je dis. Et par contre, je préfère ne pas trop commenter. J'ai fait une erreur la dernière fois en l'ouvrant un peu trop. Et ce qui se passe en interne, je vais essayer de le garder en interne, mais voilà.
Okay, so my question to you is, if he was indeed late a couple of minutes for practice, and I don't excuse it, by the way, mind you, with Montreal roads, it took me an hour and 45 minutes yesterday to go from across the Pont Mercier and go to the Alouettes game. And in the end, I ended up getting there at 7:30 for a 7 o'clock game. And I tried to look for parking everywhere I couldn't, and I couldn't find any. I ended up coming home. I still don't excuse it, however. Having said that, if he was late for practice, once again, the playoffs are your top priority. He had a great week of practice, I was told, and looked great. Do you think the punishment is justified to not be dressed for the game? And then once again, going back to Martinez, the guy that you said betrayed you is a starter? Like, is something off here?
I don't think they're the same. I think if he puts a rule in, and I don't know what the rule is, it may be, look, if by Thursday you're late a certain amount of times or just late Thursday, one day before game, the consequence is you're not in the lineup. And it seems for me he's not the only one who seems to have taken that or have that consequence. I don't see the same as Martinez. Martinez, he just felt okay for him. It's what he says, emotionally, but comes back, he goes on the field, performs, boom. But if the rule is you are late for practice, and this is not the first time it's happened in football, you don't play, then I can live with that. And I think he has to live. The factor is it's difficult for a coach, I assume, because you have a rule, you have a player who probably could help you. But if you let him go slide that rule, then what happens to the rest of the group? And I can tell you, I've lived it with some guys who come in late, game day, and still we're on the lineup. And then the rule was put there and not really there was no consequences to it. The rest of the team goes, okay, so that means that even if I do well, this guy is always going to play, no matter if he comes late for a game or two for the game. So I don't think they're the same things. If you put a rule in place and that you didn't make the rule, you broke the rule, and the consequence is not playing, that is what it is. And he seems to have done that with other players. So, and he said, I have to abide by my rule book. And if he twists it, then you lose most of the players or a portion of the players who are fighting and hoping for a spot and say, okay, at the end of the day, I'm not really fighting. And Martinez is different because it's a case by case with the emotional status of what happens during a session of words, probably, because I don't think it's Josef Martinez who didn't show up at training. For me, it's not the same. And if that's the case, that's why Coccaro I can live with that. Even though, yes, we would have loved to see Coccaro play because they invested in him. But if he broke the rule and that's the consequence, it's too bad. And hopefully he learns and makes sure that he gets there on time and early.
What did you think of Caden Clark and Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy?
I think Caden can bring something because of athleticism and he works hard. Let's not expect somebody who's going to just break the bank up front. But I think the way he operates, his movement, he could be a handful up front. And he was before he got traded, and he's still a young player. Jaquil, I've seen him in Toronto the whole last year. I think this kid has tons of potential, but I don't think he's there yet in terms of his confidence of what he will bring in volume. It was interesting when he was in Toronto because they played him as a number 8 and as an offensive mid, and it seemed like he brought a little bit more there than as a wing back because
you just stole my thunder. You just stole my thunder. Sorry to interrupt you. Yeah. I'm going to say it right now. You ready? Yeah. I don't care how many teams see him as a right wing back or a right back in the world, premier academies. And look, they have their opinion. I have mine. I don't see it. He's a box to box. He is a box to box.
I'll tell you, I've seen him. Okay, I've been watching Toronto for quite some time, especially last year, covering them with Apple. He was a winger, and they changed the formation, or changed their system, which having wingbacks, and they thought because of his offensive output, he could become a wingback. But I don't think he has the volume to be able. He's not Alfonso, if you could say. It's not to compare the players, but Alfonso has a lot of speed. So when he goes forward, he's bomb, and he can get back for his defensive work, even though maybe that's a portion of his game that needs to improve. Well, Jaquil is a kind of a ball handler, guy who needs to get the ball to feet, crafting small spaces, and I think at that position, it's a lot to demand for him. And I saw him perform well when Bob Bradley put him as an offensive midfielder, where he was a bit more tricky and he had more of his offensive qualities, which is the number one thing he has, and competent. And we saw a bit more of him when he was in Toronto at that stage. But we'll see. They put him as wing back, and we'll see if he joins in and brings more. I just see him at another position, and I think he can probably bring more in a central position with less defensive work, if you could say.
I agree with that, and he's got good feet. He's got good soccer sense, and I want him to touch the ball more often. I don't know how much he's going to touch the ball at the wings. Maybe they attack through the wings, and maybe they think they'll be able to get him the ball a lot. Once again, I don't think he's got a lot of pace. I don't think he's got a lot of speed. There were so many times where there I am sitting down watching the game at the stadium. I was there in my seats, and I'm waiting for him to take the guy on 1v1, and he chose not to and play safe and go back. And it looks good on the stats because you're completing your 2-foot short passes, but you're not getting much offense done. And I was a little bit disappointed, but at the same time, I don't think they're playing him in his best position. I think that's going to change at one point. I could be wrong. We'll have to wait and see. And Caden Clark?
Caden Clark, like I mentioned, athletic kid. I think he buzzes around forward. I think confidence-wise, those are two guys that even if Jaquil plays in Toronto, he wasn't a main starter. So their confidence level is not as high. I think Caden, we need to give him time because Minnesota used to use him as a wingback. And he's a kid who made his name as an offensive player, meaning second forward, offensive midfielder. And to rekindle that, he needs to play there more often. I think that's where he got transferred to Red Bulls Leipzig. And he's coming from Minnesota where, like I said, the last year he hasn't played much, lost some of his confidence. I think that he needs to gain. And it's in a place where right now nobody's a star in those positions up top, all those three positions. Maybe Martinez is, yes, dangerous and in good positions. But the other two offensive, nobody has really taken the mantle to say, I'm the offensive guy that it goes through or I create stuff. So I think Caden Clark has a good shot as an offensive player, to bring a spark and make runs. He maybe he didn't do much in the games against New England, but he moves around. And now it's just getting the confidence to go and shoot, and maybe gives those final passes to Martinez or Kokara or whoever's playing up top.
But, I don't know if they've had the same starting 11 at all this season. Yeah. I spoke with Jeff Teotonio earlier today on BPM Sports Radio, and I think he told me that they never have. They've changed it all the time, which is absolutely crazy if that's the case. I don't know. I wouldn't have started that many new players at the same time. Jaquil starts his first game. Caden Clark starts his first game. Pierce hasn't played much because they just acquired him, obviously. I don't know why Alvarez is no longer at left at left center back. I don't get it, really. I don't understand. I'm not so sure I agree with Martinez starting the game. I definitely don't agree with Sanusi not starting the game. Like, here I am. Like, I've been one to complain about Sanusi in the past, that I thought they were giving him too much in the past and he wasn't delivering. He's got 6 goals this year, and he's on the bench, and he's coming in with what, 20 minutes left in the game, or come on. What's wrong, Pat?
Like I said, I don't know. And this is instability for me. And when I mean instability, is in terms of when you rotate too many players into the lineup, because the factor that you don't have a starting 11 always is okay. But usually you have 7 to 8 players who are mainstay. They don't usually move. You have 2 or 3 that move around, forwards, maybe wing backs or a midfielder here and there. But you have a core that you stick around. And now, if I'm correct, I think in the midfield, from a stat that I got, somebody told me they used 21 different setups in terms of midfielders, if you count the 2 offensive midfielders in there. So it's a portion where he needs to stick with 8 and move around 1 or 2 or 3 and trust 13 or 14 players. And like you said, I've mentioned it before, Ibrahim was the hot guy, and then he kind of disappeared. Okay, maybe you broke a rule or 2 or there, but I think at one point you have to say, you know what, you broke the rule, but I'm giving you back your spot because you are the guy who's shown that they've been the most consistent. And now we've had so many different forwards, offensive midfielders, wing backs. The wing backs I'm okay because Pierce and Bugai had played the last games. I am agreeing with you. I didn't think Jaquil should have started because Bugai has been there for weeks now, and he knows a bit more the system that Jaquil does because Jaquil's been here for 2 weeks, a week or so. So, but yeah, on stability, meaning you have to maintain some 7 or 8 guys, and at the back, just trust the 3 and go with it. And I think he's been adjusting to, okay, who do we play and who do our center backs match up or bring the most against the opponent? Well, look at the teams that win. Look at their starting 11. I'm going to give you an example, but it's far out because it's completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Columbus Crew probably played 7 or 8 games, Leagues Cup, League, and it's usually the same 7 to 8 guys who start.
Yeah.
And
congratulations to Wilfred Nancy, by the way. Congratulations, Leagues Cup winners yesterday.
Yeah.
2-1 win.
People are going to say, you're bringing Wilfred. It's not that it's Wilfred. It's just to say they've been winning. They could have changed players midweek, but it's usually the same players and maybe 2 or 3 jump into the lineup. And it's to say stability counts. And then after one point, a guy might score goals at 33 games or might start playing well. And let's not forget, they probably have the 2nd to 3rd youngest team in this league, meaning young players need more time to get their groove on. Saliba, everybody will say, he's not like Ismail. And slowly we're like, you know what? He's a good potential and could possibly leave for transfer because with time, he got regular, got consistent, maintained his confidence, and now he's showing that he's a starter. And
hold on a second. He's going to leave for sure. They play him every game and every minute, so his transfer market goes up all the time.
The transfer market doesn't depend on if you're playing.
I can understand that, but obviously it can positively affect it. Pat, I'm going to be honest with you. I thought he had a really bad game on Saturday.
Who, Nathan Saliba?
Yeah.
No,
I know a lot, and I based on social media, I know a lot of people disagree with me, but I'm going to tell them that second goal that everyone's looking at Bittt and Waterman, it's the responsibility of Saliba because that pass goes to Sands, and that's Saliba's guy, and he doesn't follow him. He does
mistakes. I'm not going to lie, he's going to have mistakes, but in terms of his game overall, for me, he's grown. He's taking a little bit more chances of going forward, which I know he's capable of, and he does. But now you're playing in a team that we mentioned it. This team is not vibing, connecting like we saw them in March, where we were like, they're, I think, surprising us of actually where they could go because they got all these points on the road at the beginning of the year. Now it's a team where I see it's a team. The minute things don't go well, there's not enough for resilience to come up top. And Saliba's playing well, does his mistakes, but nobody's playing fantastic. I just feel he's grown in terms of his potential and what he's doing a little bit more than what he did at the beginning of the season. Doesn't mean he's playing great, but I do believe he's playing much better, and he's definitely taking some strides in terms of his game and what he didn't do before and what he's doing a little bit more now. And I'm not saying he's not making mistakes. He's a young player. He's going to make tons of mistakes still. But I'm saying he's progressed tremendously and to the point that, yes, teams are interested in him. And now it's just a question, maybe if he bangs 2 or 3 goals before the 31st of August, he could leave quickly, or at least maybe by the end of the season for January.
Pat, I see the talent. I think he could do a lot better. So personally, just my opinion.
You can still do better.
My I don't think that he is playing as well as it seems like the consensus members of the media make it out to be. Right now, I watch him play. He's 17 games played. He started 11 of them. He's got 1,042 minutes. He started 20 of 28 last year, 1,768 minutes. And I understand his job is not to score goals, but defensively, I find there's a problem with his positioning. Offensively, he's got 0 goals and 1 assist in 45 games played and over 2,800 minutes. Right now, I see him. He's got 6 shots on target in 5 years. He's got 3 shots on target this year. He's got 15 shots in 17 games. Once again, he's got 1 assist to show for all these games and all this time. It's not necessarily his job, I get it. But defensively, I find there's a problem in positioning. Offensively, there's no production whatsoever. Is he young? Yes, he's young. Has he grown a lot? Yes. Has he accomplished a lot at a young age? Yes. But I think he could be a lot better than this. What I'm trying to say is, I don't see what other people are seeing. Maybe it's me because I'm alone on an island here.
The factor, no, like I'm saying, yes, because I know the kid and I know the potential, and I've seen him as a youth player, what he's able to do, and I'm hoping it pans out to be to optimize his talent. I don't forget that he's 20 years old. I do know he has tremendous things to work on, but as a 20-year-old, what he's doing, he's still doing good things. Now, expecting goals, I think that's something he needs to work on to bring to his game. I think he can go forward, but I don't think he has the offensive output yet to say. Volume, I still believe he needs to be with somebody where he learns how to, because he's 20 years old. He's not Fabregas, who at 16, 17 was playing Premier League and then by 20 captain. He's not a clear-cut starter yet. Let's not forget, if Mathieu Choiniere is still here, it's Mathieu Choiniere and Samuel Bittt. And it's Nata Salaba has not been playing 10 games in a row saying, I'm the main guy, and now where I'm just saying he's progressing quite well where there's interest. Now there's 9 games. I'm supposing that, or 8 that he will be a clear-cut starter. I'm curious to see how after these 7-8 games his continued progression will bring for his output. I agree with you. There's a lot of games where I could go not in the right position. Should have turned, should have gone forward. But I see now he's still juggling with, I got to bring offensive output, but I got to defend. But he's got to be with somebody that, when they took out Samuel Bittt for me, you don't have the veteran guy next to a young guy who's still not yet concluded, like, I can boss the midfield by myself.
Yeah.
So now you're letting him be there. He's going to do his mistakes, but it's going to show even more because you're not with somebody who's going to be there to cover you and tell you to play well. Just like if you go to Miami, all those guys playing behind Busquets, and I'm not saying we have a Busquets. I'm just saying when you have a veteran guy who's going to do the job and you're an offensive guy, you're going to take more risk and you're going to learn a little bit more and you're going to realize, okay, I can go do a little bit more because I got the main guy here, or I'm able to fulfill my potential. But he's still got works to do. I'm just saying he's progressed, and I see the steps, and I see what professional other European teams are probably seeing the potential that they can invest in.
Yeah, and at the 71st minute, they're down by a score of 2-0. Carlos Hill, who was absolutely fantastic. He was the best player on the field, and it wasn't even close on Saturday. Yes, the guy is a real, he's a maestro for sure. He went through Lapalainen, Edwards, and Saliba. He just passed right through them in the box, a diagonal pass in the box. Vrioni lets it go right behind them to Lima, who hits it 3-0. I thought even there defensively it was weak. Mind you, he's not the only one. On the first goal, I thought that Pierce was very weak. His body positioning, Pierce, he didn't know whether to go right, whether to go left, how to position his body. I thought it was a disaster. Carlos Hill put a ball in behind him for Bai, who centered it for Wood. And by the way, Wood crosses the ball down the right wing in the box. You have 3 CF Montreal players, Souza, Waterman, and Campbell. Campbell has Wood in front of him. Instead of getting in front of Wood and putting his body in front of Wood, he's behind him. Wood redirects it, 1-0. Then once again, Saliba doesn't follow his man on the second goal. Ultimately, across in front, knocks off of Piet's foot or knee. The ball goes to Sirois. A couple of players are scrambling for it. Wood has his foot on it. And then Waterman comes in and tries to kick it away, but unfortunately kicks it into his own net. That's 2. The Hill goal that we just talked about before the Hill pass, Lima ends up scoring, makes it 3-0. A pass to Langoni, who's behind Waterman, and passes in the box. by Campbell to Vrioni that makes it 4-0. And Barrero getting the ball in the left wing, cuts to the middle, passes the ball in between Saliba and Waterman. A shot, Sirois touches it with a hand, but it ends up going in 5-0. It was an absolute disaster. Pat, in ending, I ask you, you said they're not very tight, very united right now on the field. It will take for some kind of rebuilding, some kind of team meeting, some kind of sit down, some kind of talk, some kind of outing. Do you have any other suggestions? Because I know I have one and I want to throw it to you. You ready?
Go ahead.
I think this staff needs help. I find they're way too late on adjustments. I don't think they got the right game plan on several occasions. I don't think Laurent Courtois is surrounded with as much experience as he needs. I think they need help, Pat. I really do. You know what? I believe in giving a fair chance. I know we talked about it before after a 5-0 loss at this stage of the season, trying to make the playoffs. I know a lot of people would fire the coach. I'm willing to give the coach the benefit of the doubt and give him some time because he too, he's like a young player, right? He's coaching at the first time at the pro level. Like, we're going to have to live with some mistakes. You knew what you were getting when you hired him. You were getting an inexperienced coach. I would help him. I think by helping him, you have to add an assistant to his staff. If making the playoffs right now is really important, I would go out and try and find an assistant for him. What do you think?
I don't know if I've never seen the team go get an assistant there during season, but definitely if he has for him, because I know he has a staff, but I think most coaches have some sort of mentor, somebody who has a bit more pedigree than them, somebody they can rely upon. Look, this is my situation that's happening. Have you lived through this? What I can't say what should I do, but what have you done in the past? Those things I think help coaches because people forget the coaches taking decisions. And everybody has some sort of other mental coach, but the coach needs help too. Needs somebody. That's why for me, Antoine Gulnat, since he's not been there anymore, there's been a gap of somebody who was there for the coaches and for the players. But no, I think
sports psychologist, right?
Yeah, mental coach,
mental performance coach. Yeah.
But I think the thing that bothers me the most is I checked the stats today, and I saw it at the beginning of the season, and it disturbed me a lot. The CF Montreal is in the last positions in terms of being able to press the ball, meaning when teams make passes, the type of press. We're not asking you to be Red Bull, New York, or St. Louis, but I think when you watch games, and I do agree, the first goal is clearly Pierce turns where the player's running and not where Gill is running. He could have maybe anticipated that pass. It went by behind him and by score. So a lot of the mistakes are not pressing the ball and not reading the play. And so sometimes, yes, I agree. The coach has his, we mentioned it. He has his part in terms of the subs, in terms of the stability there. But a lot of the times now, the goals that we've seen are the players have seen these goals before and they keep re-happening. So reading the cues, reading the game, are you really invested? You just mentioned it. Bobby Wood is there. There's 3 defenders. You know there's 1 striker, and you know that ball is probably going to be crossed. And he gets there first. So at the end of the day, and those goals have happened once, 2, 3, 4. We cannot name the games of what happened. So it bothers me. And what bothers me the most is the attitude in the games, because the 5-0, yes, it hurts. It's stats of Puro. It never happened there, 5-0. But if you look at games, 5-0 in Seattle, 4-1 in Nashville, 4-1 in Colorado, and probably other games where they didn't lose that by that much, but the team seemed lifeless.
Yeah.
That's, for me, the most important thing. It's not tactics, it's what are you putting out there? And the only guy I see sometimes really, I feel there's anger or frustration is Raheem Edwards. He seems like the other one that at least when things are not going well, he's trying to knock somebody. It's stupid to say, but at least it shows like he cares about winning or losing. And then when you read the words of Joel Waterman in the newspaper, right? I think we maybe took them lightly. I think some guys have tuned out. Hey, you're a professional. And
he also said that they weren't good tactically.
So they made some tactical mistakes. He admitted, but he did say we might have taken them lightly.
Yes, not good. Because,
sorry.
Once again, and I don't want to put this on Courtois. I know the players have to motivate themselves, but ultimately it is also the coach's responsibility to help motivate his team and get them ready, right? Let's bring up the standings before we go, Pat. This has been a lot of fun. People are watching right now on YouTube, on Twitter, and on Facebook. Here it is. There's a stat that's troubling, of course. There's a couple. One of them is a minus 20 goal differential, which, by the way, is the second worst goal differential in the league behind San Jose. The other one is 54, and that's the amount of goals they've given up, which is the third worst in all of MLS. CF Montreal right now are only 1 point away from Atlanta's 9th spot in the play-in. Only 1 point away. But then again, they're only 1 point away from being last in the East because the Revolution, Chicago, Nashville, and DC all have 1 point less than Montreal, and the Revolution have 2 games in hand. That was a big, big game versus the Revolution, who have 2 games in hand. That's a game that they had to win. They would have won that game. They would have been in a play-in position, and instead, they're out of a play-in position, and the Revolution have 2 games in hand. Next up for Montreal, they visit, Cincinnati on Saturday night. Pat Bernier, thanks so much for your contributions, my man. I really appreciate it. Merci beaucoup.
Thanks. The positive is they took the beating now, and there's still 8 games to go. So hopefully that gave them and they're going to be playing the Revolution again. So hopefully they'll take their revenge on that. But thanks.
You want
again.
my positive? You want my positive?
Go ahead.
The poutine on Saturday night was absolutely fantastic, by the way. It was really good. Yeah, and the gentleman who served it said, bonne chance à ton émission à BPM Sport. Puis j'ai dit, merci beaucoup. It's funny. My son wants me to cut down on eating because obviously, my weight's getting carried away. And I said, yeah, son. Yeah, I promise you, I'm going to cut down on eating. I hadn't eaten all day. So I went, I snuck away and I went to get a poutine. And I hid from outside, like, right before the entrance, where the players' tunnel is. I hid there and I was eating my poutine behind the tunnel so no one can see me. And I had an eye on the screen and I was watching the game. I'm about to leave Stade Saputo on Saturday night. I run into François-Étienne Corbin and Sid Faux, who did the game on RDS.
Yeah.
Hey, Tony, on t'a poigné sur la caméra. T'étais en train de manger un poutine.
We saw you there. We saw it. It caught you right dead
oh,
simple.
My God, man. I can't do anything anymore. Merci, Pat. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Tony.
All right, there you have Marinaro. Discover a world of luxury at Playground. Explore the 30,000 square foot expansion. Thrilling games, gourmet dining, live entertainment located just over the Mercier Bridge, only minutes from downtown Montreal. Playground experience the strip without the trip. And I also want to give a shout out to Manta sleep mask. It's personalized. It's adjustable. It'll block out all of the light that's coming in when you're trying to sleep so you get the best possible sleep. It's a personalized fit. And once again, you're absolutely going to love it. You can check it out. You can buy it at mantasleep.com, and I will get you 10% off. All you have to do is use code SICCF Montreal, SICCF Montreal, to get 10% off on Manta Sleep mask. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for your comments. Thank you for YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and everything coming in. Thanks for all your support today. By the way, it was my first day ever hosting a show, and tout en français on BPM Sports Radio, Le Forum, which starts at 9:55 a.m. Monday to Friday and goes on for a couple of hours. Today was show number 1, hopefully of many. And I got so many messages of support and love that it really, really touched my heart. Believe me when I tell you that today was one of the most emotional days of my life. And for that, I say, merci beaucoup. Thanks for watching The Sick Podcast. For Shane Gaumont and Master Control, Marinaro. Don't forget The Sick Podcast, Habs Sick Podcast with me, Tony Marinaro, tonight. 5-0 loss at home versus the New England Revolution with only 9 games left. You're a point out of a playoff spot, and you have a press conference a couple of days ago saying we're a better team. We have a better chance to make the playoffs. You lose 5-0. 5-0? I finished this podcast by asking you just one question. Is this a joke?
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast, CF Montreal Talk on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.